This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, June 3rd. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Powell, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all aspects of home technology, home automation. This week we've got a couple of new products. We've got like a little IoT roundup to bring to you. Like there's been a couple of new interesting products in the IoT space. And we'll talk about those. And got maybe a couple of news headlines. Not much going on. The new products was enough for us to kind of get into talking about. But first things first, we got to talk about drama. There's been some drama in our industry between someone who is outside of our industry but always seems to stir up drama wherever they go. Who put this in here? I think we all have seen, what is it, Linus? Tech Talks guy who does the YouTube videos that are just outrageous and over the top, which there can be entertaining if that's your thing. But he got into it with a little company called Jasco, which is familiar to some of the home automation automation enthusiasts that are probably listening. Gavin, I think you threw this up on the board. What's going on over here? What's this drama about?
He's just mad because he bought, like, I think he claimed $5,000 to $10,000 worth of Jasco equipment, and he has issues with it, and issues that are resolved via a firmware update. So
I think before all of that, I think I've identified his problem already.
Yeah, I said the same thing. Your first problem is you bought $5,000 worth of Jasco, but that being said, he went to the company. He asked them for the updated firmware that fixed the bug, and they would not give it to him. I think they said it was proprietary software. They didn't want to give it out, but he would be able to upgrade the firmware on his devices using a hub. They didn't tell him which hub, so he was still just as confused, and it just created a even more mad Linux. That sums it up.
Yeah, I don't see why it would be so difficult to just give the firmware out, just make a little section on the website, download this at your own risk. They already have it and everything. But yeah, you had to have a certain hub in order to update it. And they won't even tell you which one it is. So doesn't make any sense to me.
These companies are, at least like Jasco and whatnot, are a little... they're like big, right? Like they're bigger companies. They have a bunch of silos that they operate in. So the team that makes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, this was like GE product that was Jasco product, but branded GE, because GE has their own like GE Sync stuff that they sold off to Savant. So that's kind of, we all know that has gone on. But this is different. This is another like subsidiary of GE that made Jasco products, or that contracted with Jasco to make their products, essentially. And I know Jasco, at least in our industry too, makes a lot of, I know they make a lot of like OEM type product for even custom shops that are here. So, and a lot of, and at those points in time, so the firmware is, they probably have agreements where the firmware is not controlled by Jasco, but handed off at the end of the project to whatever home automation company is involved. But in this case, something happened, and I don't know, like it doesn't sound like Jasco had in place the people to talk to, right? Like if you call them up or start a chat on their website, you're probably not talking to the right person, or that the person wasn't empowered to say, oh, the files to download are right over here. And from what I've seen is, like, after a while, after someone who is quasi famous raises a stink and complains to their audience, someone higher up at Jasco woke up and said, oh no, we've got to put this one to bed. And oh yeah, we should probably have, supported this type of integration or whatever, firmware updates, and just put the files out. And what was nice is, TJ, you were asking about this earlier, like he did actually say, no, I want you guys to put the firmware, like, it needs to be online for anyone, not just me. I'm not signing an NDA for this. Anybody and everybody who has your products, that they need to be on the latest firmware for whatever reason, for security updates, for whatever bug he was having an issue with. It doesn't need to just be me because I'm famous, and that I think is actually commendable. That I'm glad he did that.
Yeah, and to be fair, like when these companies put out these firmware, it creates all sorts of more, I guess, support requests. Firmware updating on Zigbee and even Z-Wave devices is not an easy thing. Some hubs do it, some don't. And even when you update, like Innovelli is very open with their firmware. They have a site, you can pull down the files. They're great for that, but I have 30 plus switches, and updating them is like almost like half an hour to an hour each it takes to run.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you can only do one at a time, and I just do it in the background while I'm doing my work. I just start one, let it go. It fails a lot of times. You have to start it, restart it, and that's just Z-Wave. It's not easy. I've never had to update a Zigbee device, but like everything in the industry, it's a mess, right? Like it's just firmware should be easy, but they found some way to just make it hard.
Well, yeah, and it's amazing too, because I think what he said is that some of the products that he bought had been sitting for like 4 or 5 years. Like the manufacturing date was so long ago that of course you're going to need to update the firmware as well. So definitely need to implement something for that.
Yeah, his issue was related to some kind of feature that has like a motion detection built into the switch, and it either can turn on or turn off or something. And he couldn't turn it off in programming, but after a while it actually started working for some reason. Because that's, once the ghosts settle down after you install them, that's generally how it works, right?
Ghost nodes.
Yeah, the ghost nodes. I bet you that was the whole problem. It was just ghost nodes the whole time. And he went through this, whole thing with Jasco, and they're like, what? It's just your ghost nodes. Let the ghost settle down. Sacrifice a small woodland creature on the new moon here with the what do you call the meteor shower coming out of Hercules there. It should be fine. But no, he didn't wait. He said, I have to have this firmware now. And now I guess we all have it. I saw that Paulus over at Home Assistant said that they had actually reached out and said it'd be great if we could integrate your firmware with Home Assistant for our upgrade process. And it looked like things started to happen there. So that'd be great. There's a lot of people who are, I think Linus was actually on Home Assistant and trying to manually update these things. From my perspective, at least with the Pro products I've dealt with, and specifically Control 4, because a lot of the other devices I haven't dealt with, like Crestron has their own Zigbee related products, but Control 4 has really left that Zigbee update process kind of like off to the side. There was only one time that it was kind of a manual process, and that was going from what they called it's going way back. It was from like a version 1.6 to 2.0 or something. It was basically moving into Zigbee Pro is what they call it, which was the more encrypted Zigbee, and moved away from what they were using before. But that was the only time there was any pain points. For the most part, Gavin, when I hit update on a Control 4 system, it'll update all the processor and equipment inside the house, the IP related stuff. And then in the background, there'll be a process that kind of spins up and starts updating those devices one or two at a time for their firmware updates. Probably a lot easier with Control 4 since it's all one manufacturer doing everything from end to end. But I mean, it kind of goes to show kind of what some of the advantages to having the Pro product is that those kind of update processes, at least for me as a dealer and installer back in the day, was completely transparent. I had no visibility into that other than watching the little counter go up. And yeah, some of them failed sometimes, but you just let them sit, and the process would come back and try again later, and it would update it eventually. So if it didn't, there was always a reset process, and you could bring it back in, it would update. So I've seen that happen, but what you're describing doesn't I don't have that experience. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's the difference between a $10,000 system and a $50.
Yeah.
System, right?
Exactly.
But these manufacturers need to have in place a way to get these updates out there, because no one ships a perfect product. What he's actually complaining about, he says his switches, he would turn them off, the motion would kick in, they would turn back on, right, as he's moving his hand away, right? And he's like, this is obviously a bug, and they need to have this in place to fix that. I've myself have had devices where I can say Zeus, for example, I had their contact sensors, their new ones. They're really nice, but when they first shipped, they were flooding the network with battery reports, right? And I contacted support. Support sent me the firmware, and I was like, great, but that should be posted somewhere, right? Like it should be like I can go to this website, grab these firmware files, see what the latest firmware for my devices are, and it gets even worse as you buy those no-name devices. You're going to get those no-name devices from China. If they don't work properly, you're never going to get a firmware update for those. They probably, even if there's a security related thing with them, you probably will never get an update for those. So that's just something to consider.
So with Zoos, you have or have not been successful with their products of getting firmware updates?
Oh, I have been. So, with their contact sensor, it was flooding the network with battery reports. I contacted support. I showed them what was happening. They said, yeah, we have a new firmware that's supposed to tackle this. They sent me over the files and everything, and I did the updates through the hub. And again, the updating process is not as nice as you have on Control 4. I had to, especially because the products I was updating are battery products too. So not only are you just, it's becoming a pain in the butt, it's draining the battery while I'm updating it too, right? Like you just can't win. And this is probably why they don't want to release these updates, because it's just not an easy process and it will cause them more headache than anything.
Right. Well, I remember, speaking of batteries, I've got a little bit of follow up here. Remember last week when I was saying, oh, you should test your UPS products. Well, I decided to do that slightly before the show. And I was thinking that the reason my internet didn't come back up is because the modem got reset at a weird time and didn't come up at the same time as the router or something like that. So ideally my modem, my router, everything would be on a UPS, right? That's ideal. And I actually had them, turns out I had them split. So there's two UPSs, one of them with the modem, one of them for the router. And whoops. So I was able to go back and plug the modem into the router, because after testing, my little UPS batteries bad. So I got to go find some of these batteries.
Super slim ones too.
Yeah, these are like 6 volt. Looks like it's a 6 volt, 7 amp hour. Shouldn't be that difficult. Hopefully they have them batteries plus. I would assume they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they don't, I have a 1500 amp power supply that I'll just leave running everything on and cross my fingers. I think it's fine. It just has a modem and a switch on it right now, so it should be okay. But not too worried about it. I know we had some other items here in follow up. First up was the Sonos voice control. We kind of teased this a couple weeks back about some of the cool things that you get with Sonos voice control that we kind of like glossed over or didn't cover when it was announced. Robert Spivak over at Do It For Me Solutions has posted what he's calling the exclusive missing manual for Sonos voice control, and it has a lot of good stuff in it. What I think is really interesting on this is that the Sonos voice control is 100% local. Like all of the processing seems to be done locally on the thing. I think we talked about that a little bit, but I just think it needs to be hammered on a little bit. Like this doesn't require a cloud connection to go up and talk to some server somewhere to translate your voice, figure out what you said, but it can figure out what you said and send it up to, eventually it's going to go to a cloud to play a song. So just keep that in mind. It's not 100% local, but at least the voice processing is local. So if you do say something like, I would like an LG 55-inch OLED TV, it doesn't pick that up and report it back to home base on accident, because that's just the way that the device is designed, right? What do you guys think about this guide? This guide here, it looks, I mean, for a missing manual, I guess it's pretty nice.
Really good write up. I really like it, and some of the controls that I didn't know what to expect. But I'm looking at the list of controls, and there's a couple cool ones that I actually will use, and that's the Hey Sonos turn on speech enhancement, for example, because that's something that I use often. And same even turn on night sound. It's a quick way to do it because I can only do it through their app, and it's much easier just to tell it to do it itself. I guess it will turn on the TV and turn off the TV based on using CEC at some point. Is that how it communicates to the TV to turn it on?
Probably the HDMI CEC stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, this is a great write up. You have to check it out. By the time the show gets posted, I believe it should be rolling out to everywhere. Probably not in Canada though. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
They said the first, I think.
Yeah,
So
by June 1st.
Yeah, by June 1st. So we've been seeing it roll out slowly and kind of getting reports that people had it. TJ had an update tonight. Did not get it, right?
Nah, I think it was just adding my surround. The new surround had an update, so it tricked me. Hopefully it'll be available tomorrow though.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in target group C or D or whatever. You're down.
I'm not even going to get it.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, the most exciting thing out of here, I think, is the grouping and ungrouping. We use the play, pause, hold button feature quite a lot to group speakers and stuff because it's a super easy way to just go into a room and start the audio in that room. So being able to do that with my voice, it would be super handy. And moving audio around. So, for example, one of the commands is, "Hey Sonos, stop the music in the patio and play it in the office." Like that's super useful and something you won't have to pull your phone out for anymore. So hopefully with the implementation of the voice control, maybe people will stop asking for like a hardware controller again. But I still see that having a use case for sure.
Oh man, the hardware controllers that Sonos made were so nice.
And they still work. I still have a client that uses one and it still works fine.
They're so good. And it's amazing they still have, if they're using the 200, I guess, if I'm remembering the model number correctly.
I think it's like CR200 or something.
The CR200. Yeah, there was a CR100 and a 200. The 100 had the wheel on it. So it was like the old iPod with the wheel dial control. And the 200 had mostly a touchscreen. But what would happen about 12 months and 1 day, so 12 months for the warranty plus 1 day for out of warranty, the bottom row of the digitizer will just die. And if you look at the interface, most of the buttons that you need to like play and pause the music, turn up and down the volume in that bottom row, like the bottom couple of pixels there. So yeah, you could never actually use it just correctly. I do want to give Robert another shout out for another. We'll put a link to this in the show notes as well, but we can't let this go past the Sonos, how to set up Sonos the best way article he has on here. Brilliant write-up. Goes through all of the different ways you could possibly install the Sonos system. Pros and cons on each. Different he's got little pictures on there too that you can get. I should have put these on in the thing so I could show what I was looking at here. But it's a long article and talks about how to set everything up. And if you are interested in Sonos, this is probably, or if you install Sonos and you haven't seen any of this, probably a good idea to go check this article out. It's very straightforward, very easy to read, kind of goes over everything. So good job, Robert. It's always good to have this info out there for people.
Yeah, especially with Sonos too. There's a lot of issues that people run into just because of the network. So it's pretty important to know if you can use Wi-Fi or if you should use Sonos Net or if you should even hardwire all your stuff. It varies greatly depending on your region. And the States here, I don't necessarily hardwire all the Sonos. We usually hardwire one or two and then use the Sonos Net. But somebody in the UK, I think like James was saying the other day, they pretty much have to hardwire all their Sonos stuff just because of the construction of the house. So if you're going to do that, it's important to know how to do it properly. So that way you can use the whole house audio, efficiently and you don't have those dropouts or hangups or anything like that.
Right. I was talking with James. I'm like, I've never really had that, had to worry about that. And then as I was talking to him, I'm like, well, pretty much hardwired everything. Now that I think about it, like I never really used Sonos Net. I use it at my house, but my house is kind of a unique situation where, well, it's not unique. It's like, this is a normal thing. I have the hub. It's over there somewhere. The little, I think they call it a boost now. It used to be called Sonos something else. I had that for years until they discontinued it as part of the S2 program. But yeah, I picked up a boost the other day and plugged it in, and I only have one device hardwired in. I've never had more than one device hardwired in, so I don't run into these weird networking use cases, which is typically what happens to most people is they run into installing Sonos with two devices rather than one. So that's where Sonos can get kind of weird on you, is when you have more than one hardwired devices. Especially if you're running a Ubiquiti network, where the default settings on the Ubiquiti do not align with what Sonos wants or expects. But once you know all that stuff, as an installer or someone who has run into this as a homeowner, and you can go in and kind of make those changes, it works. It's solid. Like I don't have any problems, and the systems that I have out there don't really have any issues either, because they're all kind of using, like, Sonos does its thing, the Wi-Fi does its thing over there, and I don't have to worry about it.
This was a great article. Like, not often do I pause what I'm listening to read an article, but this one had so much information in it that I actually focused on it because there was some interesting stuff. I do certain things because people tell me to, but what this article explained was why to only have one plugged in my house. And I've always had one plugged in my house. I've also referenced one of his other articles to get the secret, configuration and status screens and stuff like that. And that showed me the Sonos net. So it was great there. But the whole STP and RSTP stuff was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those little edge case things that you run into. And, it's not a thing until it's a thing. And then you're like, why don't I see two devices? I have these two devices. They're right there. And half the time they work and sometimes they don't. It is really confusing, because it is a black box. Like and Sonos does give dealers tools. And if you go online, you can find, what these random web pages you can go and look at that don't make any sense to anybody, but people who have been trained on it. But they're there, they exist. And it kind of takes that black box idea away. So it gives you an idea of what to do. And I will also recommend, if you have problems with Sonos, call their tech support, because when TJ, when you sent me that Sonos amp, I was like, let's see if we can crank this up. And that guy would not get off the phone with me until we tried literally everything. Okay. I mean, he was really desperate to get it working. He wanted to see it working. I'm like, this is a 10-year-old amp or more. Like, I don't need it to work. I just wanted to see if it would.
Well, and that's what you have to keep in mind when you're buying, Sonos or a lot of these other technology devices, is that you're paying for, hopefully the longevity of it, right? A lot of companies don't charge you for software updates that nobody has like a 2-year software update schedule at this point. So when you buy a Sonos speaker for $220, you're really paying for how long it's going to last with firmware updates and stuff like that. And of course there's hardware pieces that maybe don't last that long. They're defective or something else goes wrong with them. But a lot of times they do last that long, and they're worth the investment for sure.
Yeah, and the only other problem I've had with the Sonos was the Sonos that runs on the same as Wi-Fi, same frequencies as Wi-Fi. So it was easy as going in and switching the band it was using, and that solved my Sonos net issues right there. But it's been rock solid. I just plug in the beam. Everything else just runs on Sonos net from there.
Yeah, that's similar to setup to what I have. I have my Sonos Arc hardwired and everything else just wireless. Works perfectly fine. But we're also in a smaller place, I think about 1,000 square feet. So that helps out quite a bit.
Yep. All right, kind of in the same boat, a little bit bigger, but same thing. I have one thing plugged in, hardwired, and I let Sonos Net do its own things. Like you said, Gavin, stay out of the radio frequency. Just kind of move things around if you can, and should be good to go after that. So lots of good stuff in that article. Probably lots of good stuff online. And again, if you ever get stuck with Sonos, call their support, because they are good. They know what they're doing, and they really want to help you, it seems. I've never had anybody demand that I do so many things for a clearly broken 10-plus-year-old device. Like, it was just absurd. I'm like, can I get off the phone now? No, let's try one more thing. It's like, I feel like I triggered something in him to where he just like had to get this done. So all right, let's move on, guys. What do you say we jump into these HomeTech headlines?
Let's do it.
All right, well, let's line one up for the graveyard here. Amazon is announcing that they will sunset, which means in tech terms, shut down a service for their cloud cam coming and related apps later this year. This is a device that was launched way back in 2017. Nearly 5-year-old cloud cam was one of Amazon's first entries into the areas of Alexa connected home security devices. It arrived just ahead of when Amazon bought Blink, and then right after that, I think, like heels on that, they bought Ring. So kind of whatever team at Amazon, and we talk about siloed companies, this is one, holy moly. But whatever team was working on the cloud cam probably was sidelined for their for the team that came in and brought Blink in. And then I think it feels like Blink was kind of sidelined for the Ring team, and now they're all kind of working together, which is kind of nice to see that. So this article that we have here, we'll link in the show notes, goes on to say, quote somewhere, this article we have here in the show notes goes on to talk about how the email that was sent out to the customers who use this product said that starting on December 2nd, they'll no longer be able to use CloudCam or the associated apps. And until then, up until December 2nd, you should be able to download your video recordings as normal. But after that, the video history will be deleted and the service no longer available. And the little CloudCam device that you have will no longer work. So it looks like Amazon's offering some replacement, a Blink cam actually for free. But keep in mind that some of the prices on the Blink, like I think CloudCam had like 3 different pricing tiers, but Blink only has 2. So depending on how much you were paying for the CloudCam service, it may not exactly line up with what you were doing with Blink. So just kind of check that out if you had one of these products and you want to continue using it after December 2nd. One for the graveyard, guys, though. I need to put a little graveyard thing on there.
R.I.P.
Yep.
I think I only saw like one of these in the wild. I don't ever remember anybody having them. I remember people having some of the different cameras from Amazon for like the MyKey service and stuff like that. But I think I've only seen, 1 or 2 of these out in the wild. So probably not a super popular thing given everything else out there.
And you know what? Amazon's doing this right. They're giving you time. They're giving you alternatives, but that's also because they're a bigger company. They're not going out of business. They're just canceling a product. So they're probably going to switch you all over to Blink, and Blink will work for another 3 years, and then they'll cancel Blink and you'll have to buy a Ring system. So, we'll see where that goes, right? I'm not predicting the future, but, I'm trying to predict the future.
Well, I don't get the whole Blink and Ring thing at this point. You think you would kind of just consolidate it into one company, but they're still launching their own products. Like Blink just came out with a video doorbell and a couple other things. So, I would imagine some further consolidation at some point.
Yeah. I don't, it seems like they're a siloed enough company that they really don't cross that past that. But the last Amazon event, I think Jamie Siminoff was up there announcing Blink products and features for a Blink camera. So it was kind of weird, right? Like it wasn't the CEO of Blink or anything. Gavin's rolling in with his Tim Hortons. So, it's podcasting time when he's got a Tim Hortons on him. Anyway, it's not sad to see products go, especially like this. This is not an Insteon exit. If that's something like hashtag Insteon exit, it's not that, but this is they're, like you said, they're doing it right. They're giving it time. They're giving you alternatives. They're giving you solutions out of it if you want to continue with the service. So
A+.
Yeah. Clearly, a lot of these products are clearly going to have an expiration date on them because of the way they're made. They can make a whole bunch of them for really cheap, but how long can they continue to get those devices and parts and pieces from their suppliers is long term is really tough to say. I mean, they have to be updated every now and then. And they have to go through that process of being updated, or they will stop working. So we see that with Blink, we see that with Ring, we see that with Arlo. All these camera companies are constantly updating their products. So have to keep an eye on this one, see how the transition goes. I'm sure people will come to December and say, I didn't know what was going on. Why does my camera not work? But at least they gave everybody a heads up and didn't, cancel it over a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Bye. Not even a bye, not even a kiss. They just flipped the lights off. It's like he's sitting there and then all of a sudden, what happened? Visually, since it's a podcast and not a visual show, I just turned off my studio lights, so my whole screen went dark. Yeah, it's good. Good old Insteon. So, all right, well, moving on here. We've got a little IoT roundup, just a couple of products that popped into our news feeds that we do want to talk about. First up, we've got IKEA. They're continuing their foray here into the smart home ecosystem with the launch of a Google Matter. I don't know why they qualified it as Google Matter, because it's just Matter, right? Matter doesn't have a brand name. Anyway, it's a Matter-ready hub called the Didgeridoo. I guess I don't really know how to pronounce this. Didgeridoo. I don't know. Didgeridoo. We'll just call it that. And a new IKEA smart app. With a new device and app, the company is promising to handle more smart devices while making device integration easier. So, IKEA's kind of goes back to like what we talked about a little bit about the trod free and what it was doing. It was just a device bridge for, their app for Zigbee devices that they were supporting. By opening it up to Matter, they're not only be able to support hopefully those trod free compatible devices, but also other devices that you might have in the Matter ecosystem. So it sounds like, and from the quotes and stuff that were in this article, we'll link to in our show notes, it sounds like the app's significantly different. Like there's more granular ways that you can organize and save things into rooms and groups and that kind of thing, which sounds like that's more of a Matter feature set than IKEA feature set. But there's probably a significant difference if you're using the Trod Free app and then kind of move over to using the Didgeridoo app, I guess. So we have to keep an eye on that. This launches later in October, so October 2022, and they'll have a remote / away from home option or functionality. They're talking about launching that in the first half of 2023, which is kind of odd. Not sure why that doesn't launch at the same time, but TJ, what do you think about this? It's IKEA, still a player in the game here. Not often on our graveyard list, but this one, I don't know. This one kind of seems, what I'm worried about here is the trod free stuff. Like, is that going to immediately be able to cross over and be Matter device, or are you going to have the trod free ecosystem over here that talks to the Didgeridoo hub, and it doesn't, like, you can't bring the trod free stuff over to Matter because it's not for that. What do you think?
This kind of just looks like a refresh to me. The original one launched in 2014. They brought this one out now 8 years later. So I would assume that anything that works with the current hub, you could use with the new hub. And IKEA seems to be pretty good about this so far, so I wouldn't see why they would eliminate that, right? You could also probably just add the original hub to the new hub as well. It would probably make sense just to migrate everything. I don't have any of these IKEA devices. I have a couple, IKEA Sonos speakers that work great. But I've heard nothing but positive things about the IKEA smart home stuff. And Gavin's pointing at his face over there because he has a couple of the IKEA smart blinds that I've been eyeballing for many months now. So what do you think about those so far, Gavin?
You know what? IKEA is a company I did not expect to like this much. And I just find every product they release is really good. They base it on Zigbee. So all their devices, I have their plugs. I have their extenders or routers. I have their blinds, and I just added it to my Habitat hub as a Zigbee device and control it through that, and it works. It follows the standard. It works great. Now they also have little like controls that you can pair to that blind if you don't have a hub, which is also awesome, right? So their trod free stuff, I just think if you pair it with another hub that is Matter and will bridge it that way, right? Even if they don't want to bridge it, you could probably pair it with something else and bridge it. And it's great. And these articles, like, they keep calling it Google's Matter. And I think it's just some bad writing here, because when you follow the link, it says Google plans to finally launch its new smart home industry standard called Matter. They're making it sound like Google owns it, right? So, yeah.
I think it's just an Engadget thing, because somebody in the comments says, why doesn't Engadget continue to tout this as a Google standard? So
yeah, but no, the IKEA stuff I think is great. I'm surprised. I think they're going to be a leader, and they're making a lot of practical stuff too, at affordable prices. Like, their blinds are affordable, And if you really need a specific size, like people hack IKEA stuff all the time. So people post videos on how to chop them down and create the sizes you want and stuff like that, right? So it's really nice. I highly recommend them.
The thing IKEA has going for it more than anything is that the way they're knocking it out of the park is that they're retail, right? Two, they have an inexpensive product that works well. And three, it's standard based, like you're talking about here. I think that if you look long term, that's really going to normalize some of this product, the smart home product, for people bringing it into their home. It's not going to be the fancy things with bells and whistles and how many RGB LED colors you can change things with. It's going to be the easy stuff, like you said, Gavin, that you have control options on. That if you don't have a hub, they give you a little dial thing that you can put on your dresser and turn on and off the lights or raise up and down the blinds, that kind of thing.
Even the blinds have two buttons directly on the device that, worst case scenario, you just press the button, it goes down, you press the button, it goes up. It's easy, it works, it's simple. They're not trying to cram 50 things into one device. It's just a blind. It goes up and down. That's all it does.
Well, because they know that people just want a simple device. It's a lot like the furniture that they have. It's very basic. You don't go to IKEA if you want something that's like super fancy or super nice. While they do have nice things, it's mainly like just affordable stuff. And that's what they're focusing on with everything that they're doing with the smart home stuff, and it seems to be working out great for them. Example for pricing right now, you can get the Gateway for $35. It looks like. And the smart blinds are $130 to $180 in American dollars, which is like nothing. Like a Lutron Caseta shade, I think is what, like $400 to like $1,000 at least, and that's not even the hub and everything else. So
I think I paid that for dumb shades on some of my windows.
Yep.
I didn't even get the smart part of it. So yeah, it's obscenely low compared to the rest of the market.
Well, and just like what you were saying, in order for these devices to become widely adopted, you're going to have affordable devices like this or just simple devices like this. Not everybody has all the money, like $200 to spend on a light switch, especially when you can go down the road and buy one for $10, $20 or $30. So I welcome it. It's great.
Yeah. I do too. It being kind of a, not a leader, but like just the retail place where you can go in and actually see this technology working in like its basic form. It's kind of one of those things that just kind of like the rising tide raises all ships kind of things, where it's like, yeah, if this is what's expected at a basic apartment in 2022, what's expected to happen in a fancy custom home? It's got to be better, right? You got to have better options, and you do. But customers won't come looking for that if they don't know that, you can do this in an apartment for $130 or whatever.
Well, absolutely. And some people just don't know that this is an option.
Right,
if somebody's
right.
walking through IKEA and they realize that, oh man, I didn't realize I could control my blinds with my phone. Maybe the IKEA ones didn't fit for them and they want a different option. So that opens up a lot of doors.
20-foot slider window that they need a custom shade put on. Yeah, it's a whole different conversation of how that works. So yeah, interesting. Well, speaking of affordable lighting, we're gonna move on to our next product here. There's a HomeKit enabled in-wall relay switch. TJ dug up. This is actually a really cool device, a really cool product. It's kind of divided into two things. There's a relay that gets installed up at the fixture to turn on and off the light, and then there's a switch that is like a detection device that gets installed down in the switch box, kind of like Shelly. Both of these is kind of like Shelly, but it's in two parts rather than one, and it's HomeKit ready or works with HomeKit. Kind of cool device. TJ, I think you put this on here for $40 USD. So I think that's what, 80 Canadian dollars that you picked this up for, Gavin. But sorry. It's what you get for flouting that Tim Hortons in front of me. I don't know, TJ. What this is pretty cool. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I don't have any use for this because I don't use HomeKit, but I think this is the first HomeKit in-wall relay I have seen, and especially for how affordable it is. It's only $40 you said. That's a great price for what is traditionally a relatively cheap item anyway. I have a couple of the Z-Wave in-wall relays from I think Zoos, and I think they were like $50 or $60. So that's even more affordable than what I have right now. And I think that's an entry level price. I don't know if that's the MSRP.
There's like a
$9.
sale on. Yeah, it's a $50 thing, but they're doing like
Yeah.
a 20% off sale right now.
So that's a great price.
Yeah, I like how they have it in one of their features is no neutral wire required. It's like, well, yeah, because you're not doing this traditionally. You're doing it in two parts. Like one is a sensor to flip the switch on and off, and the other is the actual thing that's flipping the power right at the fixture. So yeah, no neutral is going to be needed at all. Like your devices don't wire up traditionally.
Yeah, and I've never heard of this company before. That's called Ever, EVVR, and they actually have a Zigbee and Z-Wave version as well. So if you don't need HomeKit and you want something else, they make that as well.
Yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I like how it installs easily and sets up. Gavin, have you use some HomeKit, but mostly Habitat? Have you seen this thing? What do you think about this?
No, I think it's great. No neutral is always a positive thing because that's one of the things that a lot of people run into is they don't have neutral wires at their switches. So this just makes it much easier to integrate. And especially the HomeKit side of things, there's a lot of HomeKit users out there, and sometimes it's hard to find devices for HomeKit. And the more and more that come out, good for them. I just want to say to Richard, do not scroll down and look at the pictures. Please don't. And if you do, just leave a comment in the hub when you see it.
Yeah, that I saw that.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. there's that'll be the show.
Don't spoil it for him. Don't spoil it for him. Let him find it himself.
Ordinary wall switches, guys. That's what it says. So
that looks ordinary. I mean,
it's definitely ordinary. Yeah. See, the thing is, somebody photoshopped that. That's what they wanted. They're like, no. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put these next to it, and this one just randomly here. Yeah.
You're ruining it for him.
No, he's going to have to go see this. He's
yeah.
This is something that you have to see to believe. I mean, there's even a photoshopped hand in there. The hand is not the same hand that goes with that guy walking up. And who knows, this guy walking up to the switches is even in that picture. I think we are seeing a composite here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 or 7 elements, all photoshopped in one spot. Judging by the drop shadows alone,
there was somebody else in that room.
The switches actually have different drop shadows on them. It's amazing.
The light sources, yeah,
it's different drop shadows. That last one on the end spreads out over the edge. I mean, it just keeps going. Oh man, if you're a designer, if you just, this is something to see. Anyway, let's move on before we get stuck on this for another half hour.
they even have their own hub. Maybe that's the hub I buy next. It's got Z-Wave and Zigbee support. There we go.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've never heard of this company either, so we'll have to check this out. They have an interface too. It says Pad S. What does that mean?
Pads.
That's a very blocky tablet.
Oh yeah.
I'm not hating on it, but it's very blocky. It's a cool company. I'm gonna look into their other products.
Well, TJ, when you get these, let us know how they work.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Pad S doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's square, it's blocky like you said, but it doesn't look bad. And it's got HVAC control built into it.
Ooh, can't buy it on Amazon. I don't know about that.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll have to follow up on this. That's actually kind of a cool little product there. Let's move on. We've got one more piece of gear to talk about that's new this week. And speaking of air conditioner controls, I guess Sensibo looked around the room last couple of weeks and said, "Oh yeah, we could probably put an air sensor into our HVAC control device," and they did it. And now they have the Sensibo Air Q, which is the first smart air conditioner controller with built-in air quality sensor. I don't know, maybe Ecobee. It just depends on what you want to call this thing. Like Ecobee seems to have that now, but this is kind of a different device. This is made for like mini splits, and I'm just checking to see if it's still plugged in and working. It seems to be, but I have a Sensibo, like the first generation of it, sitting over there plugged in and running the mini split we have here in the garage. It seems to be probably one of the better devices that I found over time. And I'm not sure I need the air quality sensor thing in this, but as far as like if you need to control a mini split, this product has been pretty good once you find what remote you need to control your mini split with. That's been the trick, because it's got a lot of nice stuff into it. It's got, the one I have has temperature and humidity, so it can actually regulate not only the temperature but the humidity in the room. So if it gets too humid, it'll start kind of running into like a dehumidification mode to kind of pull some of that out while maintaining the temperature. But this adds in CO2 monitoring and TVOC, which is our fart detections. So if you, I guess you toot inside here in the garage or something, and it detects that you've done that, it'll turn the air on and move the air. I don't know how that works or what you need that for, but organic compounds is what they call it. That sounds like a fart to me.
You don't want to be choking on your own farts in your house.
No, exactly. So these things run $150 for one unit. They have different pricing. Packages go up to like 4+ units for $580. So it just depends on how many you need, how many mini splits you want to control. I will say, as far as controls go, it's been one of the more easy to set up and more reliable products that I've used for this. So your mileage may vary, but I've had pretty good luck with it, with a Mitsubishi mini split.
The air quality monitoring seems to be the new in thing for everybody this year. It seems like everybody's integrating it. They're like, me too, we have it too. Okay. I'd like to see Ecobee put it in their sensors, release sensors, so I can see the air quality in all the rooms. Right. I don't have one, and I'm curious what the rating in my house would be. I'm just curious how you I kind of am, because like it's either good or I'm gonna be blaming the dog for a lot of stuff.
I think it's probably one of those devices I would probably use like one time when I set it up, and then I'd probably forget about it.
Yeah,
it seems like a good idea, but I just don't know if I would use it.
Because how often does your air quality change? Like, are you gonna have good days, bad days? Like, I don't know. I'm just I'm curious about that. Like, if you measure it today, is that pretty much what your air quality is gonna be in the house, right? Like,
I'd imagine it changes with seasons and stuff, but how much, I guess.
Yeah. And is it a solution to a problem we never had? I've never had issues with air quality before, like
that you know of.
That I know of. Like, I don't know. Like, what am I trying to solve here?
I think it's a bigger problem in other parts of the world that may have pollution or things that we don't have to worry about here. I mean, specifically looking at like what happens over at China sometimes of the year, where factories and whatnot like make it's really foggy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a place here called Hamilton that it would probably be good for.
Hey, that's our sister city for some reason.
Well, they have air quality issues.
There you go. I will say this also adds in native Apple HomeKit integration, according to the little chart they have at the bottom here. Mine doesn't have that, but I didn't know it didn't have that because I already had it integrated with HomeKit using the little Homebridge plugin that somebody made up. So yay for open source integrations. But if you can get it native on the device, it's even better in some cases. So that's good and probably worth the price of entry. If I was gonna, I think I picked up the Sensibo Sky for roughly $100. Is $50 worth it for an air quality monitor and all this other stuff in here? I don't know, probably not. But it depends on what, if you want native HomeKit and you don't have to run a server with the Homebridge on it, that this is the way to go.
Might have to check one out at some point just so I can see what is going on inside my house.
Yeah, grab one of those or the Ecobee. I mean, you never know. Like you could live in a house of farts and not even know until you plug one of these things in. Just
some things you don't want to know.
I guess that's true, right?
I'm okay now, but now I won't be able to sleep at night if I'm living
paranoid.
in a house of farts. Yep.
Right. House of Farts. That's our show title, back.
There we go.
Between your air quality sensor going off and the little canary falling over.
Oh my gosh.
The canary's always dead. I don't understand.
And then you have all your smart lights turn red.
Is it my emergency diet? Is it the dog's diet? I don't know. All right. Last but not least, and probably the best, we've got to talk about the SwitchBot lock, which I think it was UTJ that posted this in the hub, and it got a lot of love. Let me tell you that. Like when we were looking at this, so you've seen a door lock, you've seen a smart door lock, and you've seen 3M tape, I guess, and plastic things that you can stick to your wall. Now combine all three of those things, and you've got the SwitchBot lock. This is a device that 3M sticky tapes on your door and kind of over your lock as well, and basically mimics a hand turning the lock, left and right, unlock, lock. And I'm supposed to believe it's going to sticky tape there for forever.
It's such a genius idea, but I don't know about the execution, right? It's one of those things that you look at it and you're like, man, I can't believe I haven't seen this yet, right? Because whenever you think of like the smart lock replacements or the add-ons, you usually have to replace the interior portion of the lock. Like August makes one that works all right, I guess. I have a Z-Wave one at my house where I changed just the inside deadbolt portion. So most of them just replace that, or you just replace the whole lock itself. I don't see too many though that look like this, so I think it's a good idea. But yeah, double-sided tape to hold on the door lock. I don't know how that's going to work long term.
So SwitchBot mimicked the finger. They're now mimicking the hand, right? I honestly like. Yes, I laugh at this product as much, and yeah, double-sided tape and everything like that. We laugh at all that, but I just think there's a market for this. There are a lot of people out there that are, they don't want to deal with the installation of a new smart lock. They're not handy. They just want something this simple that will work. And as ugly as it is, I think a lot of people will buy that. And I've been over to friends' houses where I've looked at things they have in their house, and they're so proud of the thing they have, and I just don't have the heart to tell them how ugly it is. But it's bad, and they're so happy that it just works too. So that's the thing about this. I just think if it works, it's gonna have a market.
I'm an advocate for ugly smart home devices. I posted a picture, I think last week, of a device I got from Third Reality Inc. It's a Zigbee light switch that goes over the light switch and it motorizes it. I'm in the same boat that a lot of other Americans are in. I think there, over 40 million Americans rent where they can't change any of the physical fixtures or anything about their house. So these devices really do appeal to a market that want the smart home stuff, but they're not able to install like traditional, smart switches, or maybe they don't want an LED bulb, something like that, where this is a great alternative for those people.
I agree that it's not like if you've got to have a smart lock, you live somewhere. I've lived in apartments and whatnot that had like way different hardware that even now you can buy some. I want to say like there's a few, like even Wise has a version of a door lock that it only replaces the interior, not the exterior. There's no like keypad on the outside or anything, but the inside, the motor will connect to whatever bolt you have installed, and it just replaced the handle on the inside. But I've been in places that probably wouldn't work because it was some kind of commercial grade fixture on the door, so like, yeah, that totally makes sense. If you can just sticky tape this onto the door, yeah, it may take some paint off when you rip it off before you move, but that's not your problem, right? Like they're gonna come through and paint and clean the carpets anyway. You may lose your security deposit if it pulls off too many paints, but hopefully nobody will notice. Just don't forget you installed it. I've installed thermostat because I kind of have a background in HVAC. Like I've installed thermostats in all my like smart thermostats in all of my my rental properties that I was in. Some of them with asking and some of them without asking permission.
And you know what? If even if you're not interested in this lock, you have to go to the website and look at the video for it, the advertisement they have.
Oh,
that
horrible.
was a production. It's hilarious. It's one of those things that are so bad it's funny. I've watched it multiple times, and you just go to their website and look at their ad for their YouTube video. It's hilarious.
It feels like they attempted to script it, and then they got so far, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't need to worry about the rest of it. It'll just the people who are watching this will understand." And I don't know if that's true. I just don't know if that's true. It's very weird.
The only comment on the YouTube video right now is, do you really want to sell security equipment with a video like this?
It's true.
Oh man. All right. Well, I've got the little like peel and stick GIF playing on my screen here, and it actually looks easy to set up. 1, 2, 3, peel, stick, unlock, good to go. So I don't know. It seems like a good, easy alternative for a few things. It might work out for a lot more people than we think. How much is this thing?
I don't see a price yet, but it's not. I don't think they even announced when it's going to release. You can pre-order it right now, or sign up for notifications, I should say.
Put my email in there now.
Buy it, Gavin. Let us know how it is. Well, my question is like, we know that the switch bots are being used to flush toilets. Like, what is this going to be used for? Like, can I make a remote starter for my car with this? Like, what is somebody going to come up with to use for this that's not able to be done with the switch bot already?
The only thing limiting you is your imagination.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll have to watch it and see what people come up with. There's probably somebody out there that has a really hard to flush toilet, and the original switch bot's just not good enough. So
I might even consider switching to this just because they have a smart keypad they're advertising with it as well. That's one of the kind of annoyances I have with my smart lock is because I only change the internal portion. I don't get the advantages of having like a number pad or anything on the outside. So this would allow me to have that number pad kind of like August does as well. So
as I say, this looks just like the August door lock, to me, it looks just like the keypad for August. I think Wise even has one of those too, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it Matter compatible though?
Does that even matter? No. All the links and topics, except for one we discussed tonight, can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/399. Getting up there. All right, pick of the week. I saw this over at CE Pro's website, and for the first time in a long time, I'm like, hey, that's something really cool on CE Pro's website. But I think we can do better. So CE Pro's got this oldest gear contest running right now. So if you're a dealer in your warehouse or in your storage unit or your garage, you've got some old gear laying around from like the early 2000s, apply for this. This looks kind of fun. Send them some info, what the equipment is, what the year it's made. Now this I guess is for like lost equipment the dealers have either purchased. I have a friend who is a dealer who purchased this net. And now you guys aren't going to remember this. It's Net Streams. They purchased a bunch of like Net Streams demo gear way back, like in the early 2000s. And they kept buying it, even though I kept telling him, stop, please stop. He kept buying it, more and more of it. And he eventually had like all of these boxes of Net Streams stuff. And when he went to install it in, I don't know, 2018, none of it was supported anymore. And we just ended up scrapping it all and going to like a Control4 system because it made more sense. Anyway, I'm curious out there how we can make this better. What we need to do is just like Gavin's old TV with the smiley face. We need to have a contest here. What is your oldest piece of equipment that you have in your house right now that is still in service and you use every day?
That's a good one.
What do you have? So I'm trying to think myself. What do I have that's like made the transition from my rental days? It's not my Ecobee thermostat because that's new. But I'm trying to think of like what I have left over here that's made it from house to house to house. And I don't know, there may not be very much here left after.
My oldest gear is probably my turntables.
Oh,
those are 30 plus years old. I think
those
now.
don't count.
All right, I was gonna say, if we're doing that,
right, all of a sudden, it's like I win, and then you guys, that doesn't count.
I was thinking smart home gear, but okay. I mean, if your turntable's smart, like,
well, just any technology.
My TV is not smart. It's so old, it's not smart.
Get a switch bot and put it on your turntable.
Bam! Smart record player.
Smart records.
I could use the lock to actually turn the record.
Ooh! Move the arm over.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. What smart home gear do you have that is still in service? I'm curious. If we say audio gear, I mean, people are gonna be like, well, I have this uh, vintage tube amp thing that was made in the 1950s, and it's it's going to go down that rabbit hole. Or the TVs that that did you post in the back channel that the now Toronto, I guess, has a Me Too museum for their TVs that they have up there because TJ's in Ohio wasn't good enough for you guys up in Toronto, so you had to do it too. Had to do it too.
Yours looks much nicer.
It does actually, looks really classy. TJ's, I think, was just done in somebody's like house and maybe their garage or something.
Yeah, ours looks like it was like somebody's house that got converted to a warehouse or something. With like the floor falling out. So
that's probably like half of the cultural museums in the United States are like that. Like if you're roadside attractions and cultural, like cultural places to go, they definitely look like, oh, this was somebody's house, but they decided to turn it into a castle.
Oh yeah.
And now there's trails and paths. So if you ever go to see Rock City in what is that, Tennessee, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What is the oldest smart home tech that you have in service?
Mine aren't even that old at this point. I have a couple like Z-Wave stuff, but like
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
but they're only like 5 or 6 years old, I think. So I'm definitely not going to win this competition.
I have one Control 4 generation. It may not be generation 1 though. It may be generation 2 dimmer left in the house that's still operational. One of them died the other day, so it has to be pretty old, like really old. But I don't know how old. Gavin, what you're pondering? What are you thinking?
Yeah, because when you start to get into smart home, then I don't have that many. Like I have first gen Fibaro. My pool monitor is like a before 500 350 series Z-Wave chip in there. Like that's probably the oldest one of them I have.
That's still shipping.
No, they don't sell it anymore. Because my TVs aren't smart. They weren't smart back then. They were just dumb terminals, so I can't include them.
Well, I mean, that smiley face TV is still in the running. If you said you just moved that to a different room, or is that out by the curb? Well, we'll get into that, I guess.
Yeah, you better not throw that on the curb. I'll come up and get it.
TV museum.
Curb alert. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Donated to TV museum. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look around and think about it and see what I have that's still in service every day. At this point, I'm probably not thinking about it, but if you're listening and you have something that's still in service, let us know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm. Tweet at us. Let us know in the hub or something. I'd like to see if we can revisit this in a future date and see what everybody's doing. I actually, you know what? It's probably Sonos. My Sonos is probably the oldest stuff I have.
I was gonna say, are we counting Sonos? You said no to the record player, then no audio equipment. So I wasn't sure. Record
player's not.
Like, come on, like my record player wins, and it was smart at the time.
There's no IC chips in a record player. I'm sorry, I'm not letting that one pass. But Sonos,
the little arm goes off automatically and goes back to the beginning. That's a smart thing.
And if a rubber band breaks inside of it, it doesn't work.
Well, if your Sonos doesn't have internet, it doesn't work. So,
Exactly.
And these were direct drive. They have big magnets, I think.
Yeah, direct drive. Then you don't have to worry about the rubber bands.
Smart.
Yep.
Fancy.
Smart record player. Yeah, if you've got a smart record player, then yes, that would probably be the oldest. So, all right, yeah, I'm curious, and if you're unsure, just let us know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm or fill out the online form over there, HomeTech.fm/feedback. Let us know. That's where you can reach out to us and let us know not only that, but like if you've got any comments, feedback, questions, ideas for a show, feedback at HomeTech.fm or HomeTech.fm/feedback. All right, well, that wraps up another week. Gavin's got you got a new baby in the house. We're so proud of you.
planted the seed on the podcast.
I know. This all started with hacking the algorithm from Amazon here live on the show. So his wife started seeing and being implanted with the idea that from ads that you get a new TV. And all of a sudden, Gavin posts in the hub that he's on the way to like Costco or something to pick up a new TV. And it was his wife's idea. And man, congratulations on you two. What was the size? What was the length? Tell us all the pertinent details of your
I was more shocked than you guys were, because it was like, she's like, I'm going to Costco tomorrow. I want to go look at a new TV. I was like, she either listens to the podcast, or she's going to want to buy something really big, or she's seen all these ads, but it was just out of the blue kind of, right? So we went to Costco. She went to return something. I was standing by the TV. I was looking at the LG C1, right? Just, bang for the dollars, a lot of good reviews and stuff like that. And I was already sitting in front of it, standing there, looking at it, admiring it. And she walked over, and the first thing she says to me is like, "You already know what you want, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "How long have you been eyeing this?" I go, "Since last year." And she's like, "All right, we can get it then." She's, like, so many hurdles were there, and it just kept getting better and better. She saw the TV, she saw the price, and she just asked, "Will this fit in the car?" She got over all those other hurdles straight to the car. I was like, "Yes, we're getting this for sure." So I got the TV. It hurt. Took me a few days before I could even set it up, because I had to order another mount for my Sonos, and then I was just busy for a while, so I didn't get to set it up for it probably sat there for a good 4 days before I could really hang it up. But man, there's so much about these new TVs. I'm just happy to be in 2022. Right? I've been living in 2004, I think, for a long time now. I am now one of those new guys. I understand what you guys gripe about. I understand what you guys love about the TVs. All my TVs before this were 720p. That's how bad this was. I went from like 720 up to 4K. I feel like I'm living in the present now.
You're in the real world now. Well, congratulations. Yeah. Congratulations. We're everyone is so happy for you. Even the thunder outside is really happy.
Yeah, I can't believe until this you were using 720p. Like, I haven't even used a 720p monitor for my computer in like 10 years at this point. You gotta up the game.
I never really thought about it. We always focused on sound first, so I always made sure, like, when you heard things going around you, it was that much more of an experience than the actual like picture quality. So I always had nice sound, but I didn't. Now that I've seen what 4K offers, man, I've been missing out.
I'd argue you're probably not missing much between the resolutions, but what you were missing were maybe the HDR features. I think that's where you're going to notice the big, because even what size TV was it?
It was a 55-inch.
So 55-inch at most distances for 55-inch TV, 720 is going to be adequate. You're not going to visually notice a difference between 720 and 4K, but what you will see the difference is when you start hitting the HDR or seeing more colors and that kind of stuff. And that's way more noticeable. That portion of the technology, the processing and everything built into it, that's going to be more noticeable than the change in resolution at whatever viewing distance you are, unless you're right up on it, like within like 3 or 4 feet of it. You're probably not going to notice a difference.
And right before we recorded this show, I got my first 4K video I played on it with HDR on it. And I compared it to what I was watching before I got this TV.
And now you're ruined.
I'm ruined now. So I'm already planning upgrades to my home theater PC and stuff like that, because I need to get 4K HDR coming off, all my devices to it. It's amazing. After we finish recording, I'm going to go show her the difference so that she can be like, so the next thing she says is, "I'm going to Best Buy. Let's go look at video cards."
Look at video cards. Oh man, so the home theater PC gets an update, just all from one TV. This all stems from one TV.
Yes. Yeah.
Next, you're gonna be throwing out all the old TVs and just buying all new TVs.
Yeah, no. Listen, one step at a time here. One step at a time. She's already moved the old TV from there up to the bedroom, so I got to mount another TV, and the bedroom TV is going to be going into another room. She wants to throw it out, but I like that smiley face TV so much.
It's nice.
And it's great in winter because it keeps the room warm.
There you go.
Right, so it's a DLP TV.
Well, in the wintertime, you can just use it as a fireplace TV then.
And it actually radiates heat,
There you go.
so it's working, like
Perfect solution.
Yeah, but we can save it for another show because I'm still learning about all the smart stuff on these TVs, and it was frustrating setting this thing up. I have to admit, like all this smart stuff drove me nuts. I don't know if we could save that for another show. I'm like still learning about it if you want.
Yeah. I think TJ and I are both I saw TJ's hand gesture, which was, not obscene, but it's definitely my thoughts as well. Like just turn it off or don't hook it up at all. Like the smart stuff, unless you need it, unless you're using it to watch programming in 4K or something that you don't have a player for, probably not worth setting up. I've turning mine off completely because I don't have anything set up on it at all. I don't ever use the LG hub for anything other than like every now and then it pops up and I have to tell it, yes, I accept these new terms and conditions. The other day it popped up and I turned on the TV and there's an ad up there for some random show or something that LG is trying to push. I'm like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to see your dumb little ads for whatever program you have. You're over. So I was looking on the hub and Robert Spivak, gentleman as he is, was talking about how you can turn LG and all of these TVs, really, you can turn them into like basically a dumb monitor by putting them into like store mode or public display mode, where it turns it into a commercial display, gets rid of all the smart stuff. And I don't want any of that junk on there. I don't use it at all. So yeah.
So that's another thing I just saw right before this show, like a service mode. So when I added the TV to my Harmony remote, of course it comes with all the options, and I was going through it and there's actually a enter service mode option, and I pressed it and it prompts me for a 4-digit code. So I haven't gotten around to Googling what that code would be so I can play around in that, but I'm pretty sure that would allow me to disable all the annoying stuff.
Yep. I think that's probably it. There's another mode that's even deeper than that basically just kills everything off, because if you're in a commercial environment, it's roughly the same panels that you would be buying, but you don't want to have, if you're using this for digital signage or something, that you don't want to have some stupid LG update pop up over your TV while you're trying to watch TV, where it just covers up the advertisements or whatever you're using the display for. And so they have it built in, but it's not on by default, and it's not easy to get to. It's a secret code. So we can find those. I think Robert sent me over. I haven't tried them yet, but you have to have the original remote and you punch in this, you have to do this dance of pushing buttons on the remote in certain orders with certain times. And then, it disables all that stuff.
Mine just brings up a menu on the screen. It says enter the numbers, and I just Googled it and I think I found the numbers, so I may go play.
Yeah. It looks like it's different for some years it's different. So, I may go disable this now that we've had this conversation, and the problem is I've got to dig up my old remote and I don't know where it is. No idea.
See, we never even connected our TV to the internet. We just hooked up a streaming device to it. So the only time I use anything for the TV itself would be, I guess, turning it on and off or switching inputs. But because we never connected it, we don't have any advertisements come up. The hub never comes up. We turned off the auto run, smart home hub, whatever that thing is called. And we never see anything pop up.
Yeah, see, it's more than just ads though. Like you mentioned, when I turned on the TV, it was showing, my HDPC would come up, but then it would show their list of apps that are installed as well along the bottom. And, I had to go through the menu, and it was either really buried or named something weird just to get that disabled. And things like that were annoying. Like I found really annoying and drove me nuts.
Yep. Well, there's ways to turn it off. Like I said, it's either like commercial display mode or hotel mode or whatever, that turns all that stuff off. Kind of reminded me, I signed up to be an LG TV developer because they have like a complete API for that thing. That's kind of wild. So I may go look over there and see if there's anything there if I want to turn certain aspects of it off and only have it one do one thing, but yeah, whatever. We'll figure it out and we'll report back because that's what we're doing. So anyway, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat, the hub, where you and everybody else can exchange your LG codes, try them out. That's what we're going to be doing, I think. Anyway, if you want to help the show but can't help financially, totally understand. Just appreciate a 5-star review in iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. That's going to wrap up another week here on HomeTech. For everyone here, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
See you later.
So guys, I got about 42 minutes of that show recorded.
Oh
Why?
my.
Because when the audio failed, I forgot to hit record again.
Oh my god. So are you gonna get the rest of it from, because it was an hour and a half long?
Oh
We're
my
about an hour and a
God.
half.
Yeah, this should be something on. I'll get it from somewhere.
Oh, man.
Not a big deal.
That is
Wow.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yay!